Hello, Chip. Your
Hello.
hair looks really lovely today.
You know
I
what's
actually meant to
funny is
comment on
I
that
haven't
earlier.
showered. This is like bed hair.
Wow. Sometimes I feel like your bed hair is your best hair.
I know. That's why I got to keep
100%.
it nice and short because it's when the sides are awful after
Mm-hmm.
bed hair. Yeah.
Gets a little mushroomy for you.
Hmm.
How do you think I look?
Well, we've been chatting for a minute and your face is less red.
Oh, that is interesting. So
Yeah.
I told Chip before we recorded, I may look a little crazy when we got on the recording. And when we first got on, he was like, "Oh, whoa."
Oh, yeah.
But I
Like it was
had
bright red, like sunburn red.
Yeah, it feels like a sunburn. I had two laser treatments today. I did the BBL laser and the Moxie right after. And I'm going to post my documentation of this process on my Instagram once I get through it because I'm at this weird age, right? I just turned 43. And as a girl, you're kind of in this place where you're like, I've been doing Botox, I've been doing all this stuff. And then I started to realize like I didn't like the way it was looking anymore. And I'm also like, almost craving more natural now. Like the more makeup you do, the more shit you do, almost makes you look worse as you get older, you know? And so I'm in this weird in between being like definitely older and being young to where I'm trying to figure out my new process, I guess.
Hmm.
So I had heard a lot about these two lasers and I went in to see these girls just to try them because I'm like, okay, well, I do want to work on my skin. So basically, what I'm working on with this is sunspots, evening out skin tone, fine lines and wrinkles. I don't know. I'm just going to see. I read mixed reviews. Some people are like, doing lasers is a waste of time. And then some people swear by them. So I have to just try everything myself to figure out how I feel about it. So I'll keep you
Yeah.
guys posted. But it's been interesting. Aging is weird. Like, I mean, we kind of talked about this when you're, coming up on 50, but like, have you noticed like each year that passes, I feel like I'm having all these new awarenesses and I'm stepping into like a new version of myself slowly every year. Do you feel like that at all? Or am I just like
A
on the
a little
island
bit.
here?
I feel like the pressure for aging for women is very
Yeah,
different than
that's
men.
true. That's
I mean, in
true.
the gay community, it's probably more similar to
Yeah.
women. I definitely like there are changes that I'm going through that I recognize, but I'm fighting very hard to like continue to feel like a 20-year-old, just mentally.
That's so interesting because I think I'm doing the opposite.
Right, right.
I'm like, there, you couldn't pay me to go back to my 20s. And I'm also trying, I mean, physically, of course, I see, I was on a shoot with Tucker Wetmore this week, and
Mm,
like, he's just so adorable. I just love him so much, but he's young, and so all the people in the video with him are all young. And I'm looking at these kids and I'm like, they're all gorgeous. Like,
yeah,
their just
skin's
skin is
perfect.
tight, their bodies are tight, like, they look so good. And I just truly feel because, like, even his management team, everything, I'm the old person in this crew. Like,
Right.
everyone's younger. And so it's just really interesting because I have been in the other position for so many years. And now I'm like, oh, I'm getting to be the one that's been around the long time and like that's older than everyone else, which obviously I know I'm not old, but like it just being in that company, I kind of felt like I'm the old fart here. Like I just want to go out after, just like
People
that
are like, "Who's
weird.
that lady?"
Yeah,
Like,
ma'am. Yeah.
"Ma'am,
Like,
yes, ma'am."
yeah. I mean, Tucker's very much respectful like that to me. And I'm like, oh my God.
You're like, "Call me a
Cannot believe
bitch,
you're
please."
mamming me. I don't know that he does that, but yeah, it's basically
Yeah.
like, let me take care of the lady over here. But anyway, I just find even watching them though, I'm like, I love how excited they are. I love being around that energy. It's so lovely with work. And also, you couldn't pay me to go back. The lessons that I've learned since being in that period in my life, you couldn't pay me to go through them again. Like,
Right.
it's just, I know what they have ahead of them, maybe. And so I'm like, just sitting back, kind of observing
Right.
from a place of like, have fun with that, guys. So there's that. Like, I don't know what you're talking about with this, like you wanted to be in your 20s again. I'm like, what?
Well, it's not that I wanna be in my 20s, it's that I don't wanna feel old.
Okay.
I mean, I'll give you an example. I went and saw Coldplay the other night, and the show was amazing, but it's 1,000,000 degrees in Nashville right now, and you put
Yes.
80,000 people in a stadium or however many people it is.
Oh, was it at Nissan?
It was at Nissan, so it's
Yikes.
outside,
Yeah.
and you've just got more, like, bodies that are moving and dancing and screaming that just make it even hotter,
I would
and
have passed out.
I'm sure some people did, but occasionally, there was, like, a little bit of a breeze, but, like, for
Mm.
the most part, there was not a breeze at all. And then I went to the after party,
Good God.
and I didn't really have many drinks the whole time, but it was just like I was, like, out late doing things that, like, I did all the time when I was in my
Sure.
20s
Of course.
and 30s, and the next day, I wasn't hungover, I was just dead.
Exhausted.
I
Yeah.
was like, I just don't recover in the same way," and so I recognized those things.
Mm,
So I think I probably have to make some decisions moving forward based on that information where it's like,
sure.
I can still go to the show, but I don't need to be at the after party. Like
No, if I start to see my clock and it's 11 and I'm out, I panic. I'm like, I have to, 'cause I it's like I don't wanna be out past, like, I don't wanna be not in bed by the latest midnight, like, I'm getting
Right.
in bed at, like, 9 PM nowadays, like, I just and maybe I'll watch a show, it's not like I'm going to bed, but, like, I don't know, I really value sleep, my body can't bounce back, like you said, like, I would have been down for, like, 2 or 3 days from that, it feels
Yeah,
like,
it
I
is. I
just
mean, it's the recovery is real,
yeah,
it's
it
it
is
is not
real.
easy. So there are those things. And then, looking at my skin and the looseness and the wrinkles and all those things. But I try to ignore it too. I mean, not in an
Right.
unhealthy way. Like if I see a spot that I'm like concerned about, I'm like,
But you
let's go
try
back.
not to hate on yourself for it, I think is what
Right.
you're yeah, and I
Right.
think that's what I'm saying about, like, I've been trying to not do Botox anymore, and I don't know that I'll go back to it or not go back to it, I haven't made my decision, but I wanted everything that I had to be, like, out of my face before I made a decision again. And so I have been doing that, and it's like my forehead moves. This is gonna sound crazy to some of y'all, I'm sure, but, like, I think a lot of people might relate too. My forehead moves now, and I have, like, wrinkles, and at first, I freaked out about that, which made me be really question myself, and because now I'm looking at my face and I'm like, "I actually just look normal." Like, this is what we're supposed to look
Right.
like. And
Right.
I think it's great to, take care of yourself, and that's why I wanted to do this laser because I do have some sun damage that's really starting to show more, and so I wanna get ahead of that because I'm a makeup artist, like, I know what that looks like as you just let it go on. But at the same time, I do wanna be kinder to myself and try to be in more acceptance of, like, I've lived some life, and there's a lot that comes with aging that's beautiful too, and so I don't wanna just be, like, this person that's feeling less than or hating on myself, even trying to keep up with the Joneses, like, what I think our culture kind of, like, makes us feel like we have to do. Like, I do feel like there should be some beauty in this process that I'm really trying to embrace. So, anyway, I'll keep you guys posted on the laser, but it's interesting because I told you this, like, connection between this topic and our topic that we're gonna talk about today, and I actually think they do tie in together in some weird way, but as a part of this, like, aging that I'm talking about, I do think you go through experiences in life, and, like, my podcast on Wednesday was with John Paris, and he wrote this book called The Magic and the Tragic, and he really is trying to reframe the conversation about grief, and one of the main things he says is, like, I think a lot of people try to show up in this life and pretend that they're not gonna go through a period of grief, and, like, there's not one person on this planet that is going to escape the grief process. Like, you don't have to do grieving in a way that, you can stuff it or whatever, but, like, you're gonna go through things that hurt. That's part of life. And
Right.
I think if you believe anything spiritual, you probably have some sort of insight into, like, the whys of what that happens. And I always try to look at it as, like, what is this here to teach me? Like, how can I grow even through the pain? And we talked about this on Wednesday, but, like, some of the most painful experiences of my life, as much as I fucking hate when people say, like, you'll look back and be grateful for this, I do, but because of what the process brought me to within myself,
Right.
and I
Yeah.
couldn't have gotten there. Like, I don't think we grow without pain. I really don't.
Yeah.
Why would you? Like, if life's going great, why are you gonna do anything to change it?
Well, and
So
it's funny because if you think about the inverse, when you're trying to avoid grief,
mhm.
how that stunts your growth.
It totally does. Like
Like it's like you're choosing to not grow by, trying to avoid grief.
right, like, when you see the older people that you feel are really emotionally immature, that's probably what it is. Like, we're
Yeah.
trying to avoid the hard feelings. But nobody likes to do it, right? Like, it's not like you go, "Oh, you know what I wanna do today is go through something really hard, so I have to go through grief
Right.
process." Like, it's not fun. So, of course, we wanna avoid it. I think that's, like, a natural human thing. But you and I were talking before the podcast of just, like, how do we reframe our mindset around grief and try to look at the beautiful things that can come from that process or the gift of grief, and also really removing the shame that comes around, like, how long that process can take and or
Yeah.
even, like, the lifelong journey that it can be. Do you wanna share any of your I know we had said maybe we should share some of our personal journey and experiences with grief and, like, what that's taught us. Do you wanna
Well,
start?
it's funny because it's obviously you can grief, affects or is a result, I guess, or is a byproduct of a lot of things. Like, the most obvious is a breakup or a death of
Yeah.
a loved one. We're talking about, like, our youth, like, grieving the loss of that or the loss of a job or, the loss of a friendship, the loss of a
Mhm.
pet, so I've experienced a lot of grief in my life. I lost my best friend when I was in 3rd grade.
Mm.
As a 3rd grader, it's like, you really I had pneumonia at the time, and I thought I was gonna die next. Like, I didn't understand death, really. I didn't understand grief. My best friend, his name was Evan, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about him.
Mm.
And I've got a picture of him in my house, and it's like, I was in 3rd grade, I was a kid, but I'll never forget him, and, I was sick at home with pneumonia, and he died on my sister's birthday, and she was
Mhm.
having a slumber party. And this girl named Beth was there who had never met Evan, and she went through a whole box of tissues just bawling her eyes out. So it's like and me, I didn't know how to experience it, and it's a funny, like, looking back on it, like, the freedom that she felt to
Yeah.
grieve in front of us, where I didn't know what to do, you know?
That's
So it
really
just shows that,
interesting.
like, everyone's got a sort of a different approach or relationship with grief, and because I'm, like, a sort of an ultra positive person, I try to push it down by finding the beauty in it,
Mm.
rather than just, like, sitting in the darkness of it, because I'm not comfortable in that space. But, like, at my grandmother's funeral, my grandmother was my best friend growing up, like, I was so close to her, and all of her grandchildren will tell you that I was her favorite, and I'm proudly that, and I spoke at her funeral, like, I was not gonna allow my grief to keep me from letting that room know how important she was to me,
Yeah.
and that was really hard. It was like, yeah, I still have what I wrote, like, and I've read through it since, and I can't believe I was able to get up and say that many words. But I think my strength and my love for her
Mhm.
allowed me to do that, but I also don't know that I've ever properly grieved her death in the way that, like, seems necessary for someone that
Yeah.
important in your life, and, I don't know where that comes from, like, it's certainly there's the programming from my family. I, like, never saw my dad crying when he was, like, a tough man,
Well,
like,
I
he
was gonna say
can't be
boys in
that.
general, I think y'all are
Yeah,
taught that. Yeah.
and, you know, even with, like, breakups, like, I also never wanna burden anybody, like,
Totally,
that is
yeah.
the last thing I wanna do is to be a burden to anyone. I wanna be helpful and bring joy, and so I think part of me has turned off that grieving knob, but I have also learned that as I've gotten older in life, even in, like, short relationships, like, I have a hard time letting them just end because I don't know if it's the avoidance of grief or me trying to, like, smooth it over and make it really easy for the other person
Mhm.
or trying to find the good in the person. When red flags present themselves, I often don't wanna see them.
Of course,
And so
yeah.
then after it's over, and I don't know that I would recognize it as grief, but I think about it for much longer than I need to, and I don't necessarily know that I talk about it like I
You
should.
don't. Yeah, you keep that
But you think
aside.
about it, so
Yeah.
maybe that is my version of grief,
Mm.
and I think it probably has a lot just to do with the household that I grew up in,
Yeah.
because it was a lot of dust yourself off and try again when like, get out there and show them how strong you are, and, like,
Mhm.
don't be a
You know,
crybaby,
I love
those sorts of
yes.
things, and it's like, I was a very, very sensitive kid, like, with the first time I went hunting, I killed 2 squirrels with the gun I'd been given
You
for
told
Christmas,
this, yeah.
and I was so proud of myself, and then my parents couldn't find and, like, this is a little, morbid, but, like, my dad cut the tails off and, like, gave me the tails like I was Davy Crockett or some shit, and my parents was like, where were they were trying to find me, and I was up in my room petting the tails, bawling my eyes out, and vowed
Ah,
to never go hunting again. Like, that was
he's
the kind
so
of kid I
sweet.
was, and if I
Oh,
ever lied to my mom or
you
my
felt
dad,
so
like, an
guilty.
hour later, I would be, like, bawling and telling them the truth, and I was really sensitive and not afraid to cry,
Yeah.
but I feel like the older I've gotten, I've hardened, and society has said that's not what you're supposed to do, and,
I don't know that you've hardened. I think you've trained yourself not to, like, allow that to come out,
right,
or definitely not in public to come
right.
out. But
I
I
mean,
think you're
honestly, I
still
can't
that
remember the last time I
sensitive.
had a really good cry, like,
Yeah.
and I understand the importance of it, like, and I would like to think that I'm not ashamed of it. I just somewhere I, like, closed that box,
Yes.
and, I mean, it is a shame lock that is on it, you know?
Yeah.
And even just having this conversation, it's like, I should say out loud to give myself the permission to, like,
Mhm.
feel those hard feelings whenever I need to because they don't escape, like,
You
they
just put them into something else.
there's some yeah, it's something else, and I think that there's also something really beautiful about the idea of, like, owning your grief
Mhm.
and taking it and turning it into something else, but you have to
You get to go
recognize it
dark
first.
first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to sit with it and recognize it first, and, I find this conversation to be really interesting because otherwise I don't think I would have ever thought about it.
Yeah. Well, I
So
was
I'm
just
hoping
gonna
that opens the door for some other people to sort of think about it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing. I'm actually really glad that you're telling exactly what it looks like for you, because you said one thing too where you were like, in my family, we said, just be strong. And what's so interesting to me about that statement is I actually believe that people who allow themselves to feel the hard feelings are the
The
strongest people.
strongest,
And
yeah.
we have somehow gotten that mixed up in our society where we think that you not feeling or not looking weak or vulnerable, that's strong. That's not strong. That's
No.
not strong to me. I truly, that is one of the things as I've gotten older, when I see that in a person, I don't view that as strong. To me, if
Mm-mm.
anything, it looks more weak. What is
It's a
really
great point.
strong is the people who go face their shit. Like
Yeah.
that, it is hard work. It is allowing yourself to go to the depths, like you're talking about, like allowing yourself to feel the hard feelings, to go to the deep places, to cry, to be angry, to be in acceptance of that. That is so much strength. Like what I've observed so many people and all the work that I've done, and like I've done a lot of group therapy too, and like witnessing someone doing that process, I will have the most respect for those people that I walked through those journeys with for the rest of my life, because
Right.
like to me, I'm like, that is a strong ass person. The
Yeah.
person who can meet themselves in the darkest places, that is strong. And to not turn into an asshole because you go through something hard, like those are the strong people, the ones
Yeah.
who come out kinder, or that like use it as a growth opportunity or whatever. Like I have more respect for that than for anyone that just like diminishes the feelings and pretends like they're not there. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I struggle with hard conversations. And
Mhm.
it's like I worry and ponder and create scenarios in my mind when I have to have a hard conversation, and I work really hard to figure out how to soften the conversation. But every time I have a hard conversation, it's like I
Gets easier?
pre-grieve the result. And
Oh.
the freedom that you feel after you've just done it is unbelievable. So, it's not the same thing as, like, recognizing grief and, like, digging in and dealing with it, but I do think it's a proof that going to dark places and doing hard things in the moment sucks to have to
Mhm,
do it, but
mhm.
the way that it sets you free afterwards is the growth, and
Yeah.
I think if you can think of grieving in that way and allowing that grief to sort of drown you for a minute, on the other side of that is the knowledge that, that moment is supposed to bring to you.
Mhm, you just said that
Um,
so perfectly. Like,
yeah.
that is exactly what it is. Because I probably the way I just said it, it was, like, really harsh. I don't mean it like, "Oh, you fucking weak ass person, you can"
No,
It's like,
I
I
think
think
they're a
a lot
really
of
good
times.
example. I think that made perfect sense.
Yeah, but I also think that a lot of times we don't know how to grieve. Like,
Right.
that's a thing that I do like about this book, is that he really kind of talks about some of the things you can do and the beauty you can find. And I told him on the podcast, like, if you guys haven't listened, I'll kind of just repeat the story, but like, definitely go listen, because I found this to be very cathartic as well. But it was like, thinking through the times where I've grieved, one of the main things that pops to my head is, like, that life just slows down, right? Because then all of a sudden, when you go through something hard, you look at the shit that you worry about every day and you're like, "Why is that the thing that drives me crazy every day? It doesn't matter."
Right.
Like,
Right.
everything just becomes less in our day-to-day lives because that really hard thing has really, like, broken you open to realize none of that stuff really matters. And I told him, I'm like, "My life just slows down, and it's like when I go outside even, like if I go sit on my front porch or something." I remember the last time I was in a really dark place, I was like, my neighbors probably think I'm crazy because I didn't have a backyard set up at all. And so I would sit on this bench in my front yard and just watch people walk by. But I like needed to be out of my house, but I didn't really want to be around people or go anywhere. And I just was like sitting there and I would notice the wind blowing through the leaves or the butterfly that landed on the plant in front of me or just like the noises of the birds, like, everything just feels more visceral, I feel like, in
Mhm.
those periods of time, and when I would come out of it, it was almost like I would crave that connection with nature then again, or, like, the music I had been listening to. It's like you just start to notice. It's like your noticer gets turned way up,
Right.
and that actually is beautiful. Like, that's a beautiful part of the human experience to me, to really realize how much we're all connected, and I don't know that I would ever have had those moments if I hadn't gone through the hard times to give me that, like, "Yo, you need to stop for a second," and, like, the shit that I would be worrying about for me to go, "I don't care at all about that right now." Like, that just
Right.
doesn't matter at all. Did that make sense?
That
Like
makes perfect sense, and I think, like, knowing that we are just a speck of dust on this big, huge universe,
yeah.
it really is a reminder, and I think it's a beautiful part of grief because it reminds us that we're small and that these problems that we think are so big aren't as big as they all are, and what is important is that the people that are around you that you love and the things that you love and the beauty that, like, this is all around us, those things are what's really important. And it
Yeah.
does give you time to pause, but, I think, I can only speak from my experience because I don't know what it feels like for anyone else to grieve, but, like, it is I feel like societally and the way that, like, corporate America approaches it, like, they're just like, "Get back on the horse, like, we got
Mhm.
shoes to sell." We've
Yeah.
got shit that needs to get done, and the funny thing is, like, those few days that you are out, like, that shit still gets done. It's getting done without you,
We
but
all
we
wanna
are
think we're
trained.
so important that it
Yeah,
we
but
will
we are
get it
trained to
done.
believe that the world is gonna stop spinning if we don't do what we're supposed to do every day. So I think culturally, we could use just a reset and a reframe on the grace that we give ourselves and the grace that we give others when they're going through a really hard time.
Yeah. Because
And
we do have this, like, connection of productivity to work, right?
right,
And so if we stop or we can't function like we normally are, then all of a sudden, I think it's like we start to question, "Who am I
right,
without this stuff?" And so that's a really interesting connection to be faced with, but then it also really makes you think, like, "Am I only the person that goes to work every day? Is that the whole makeup of who I am? No, it's
right,
not. So why wouldn't we allow ourselves the space to not be okay or not be able to produce at that same rate? I remember one of our friends had a mom, his mom passed away a couple years ago and it was devastating. She died in a car wreck and she was his best friend, they talked every day. I remember him talking about, like, getting work calls during that time, and he was like, "I know I need to care, but I really can't make myself care right now." Like, it's
right,
really difficult for me to wanna show up and do this thing at work because all I can think about is, like, "Why does this even matter?" Like, my best friend just died, my mom just died, like, that's what matters to me, and I'm just trying to get out of bed every day, much less, like, this work process, like, it just doesn't seem important, and truthfully, it probably wasn't at the time. Of
right,
course, we all have responsibilities, we have to pay our bills, all the things, but it's like, it is interesting the guilt that we would put on ourselves. I was telling another story about another friend we've had go through a breakup and watching her go through the process of, like, shaming herself to be over it, and, like, I know I've done that to myself so many times, and fortunately for me, my body doesn't work that way, like, I'm too much of a feeler, and I'm just gonna be forced back into feeling even if I don't wanna be, but, like, it just the shame that comes with it sometimes of like, why am I not over this yet? Like we're so mean to ourselves and that's not how grief works. Like you were talking about, grief isn't linear. It's like
Yeah,
it's very much that corkscrew process. You were
yeah. I
what were you talking about? Was that in
Well,
the
I
Robin Williams
read
thing?
I mean, when we started talking about the topic, I'd just seen this today. It was Robin Williams' son posted a few days ago, and it got picked up on a site that I follow. And I had read this, and it struck me when you sent me the topic, so I'll just read it. He posted, "Today would have been my dad's 74th birthday. Every year the season arrives with gravity. In just 60 days, we pass through Father's Day, his birthday, and the anniversary of his death. It's a tender and complicated stretch of time, one that asks a lot of the heart. For me, grief isn't linear. It loops and it echoes. It softens, then crescendos. But alongside it lives a legacy, the kind built not from fame or recognition, but from generosity and relentless kindness. My father lived to make people feel seen. He gave permission to feel deeply and to laugh through the pain. In his absence, that mission continues. So today, I hold close the idea that the best way to honor those we love is to live with the values they stood for, to lead with service and compassion, to lift others when they're down, and to find the paths of light even in the dark corners. To anyone carrying loss right now, you are not alone. You are part of a passage of love and connection that never really ends. Happy birthday, Dad. Love you forever."
Mm,
And it's like clearly he's gone through some he's learned a lot from his grief, but
mhm.
he's also not willing to let it go. And I think the important thing to remember there is letting it go is also letting that string of love that still exists for his father, it's like cutting it. The grief is what connects them now. The memories, the sadness that he's not there. Like I'm still really fortunate to have both of my parents, but like I don't wanna ever stop missing them when they're gone.
Mhm.
You know, like,
I don't think
that
you
sounds like
can though. I
a
don't
really
think you
dark
will.
day, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's we all need to give ourselves a little bit more grace, and I also think too, we need to look at our friends and the ones that we love and give them that space to grieve too, and know that it's never gonna end for them either. So, to acknowledge it
To
and
allow it to be a process
well,
too
and to
is the thing.
keep those people alive in their minds too, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't have to be like every day being like, "How are you today?" You know,
Right.
like putting them in a dark mood. You can just be like, "I saw this, it made me think of your mom or your dad or
Mhm.
whatever." And like,
Mhm.
don't make it a shameful thing that someone has passed on in their life, you know?
Yeah.
Um, which is hard because we are trained to be these non-emotional robots
Well, and I
and
think that's the thing, right? Nobody knows what to say. And I think
right.
that's one of the main things that most people who go through something really hard, like a death or it's just something tragic, the one thing I think they would say in common is like people get uncomfortable and don't know what to say. And, we do the thing where we're like, there, she's in a better place or whatever. And that's just such bullshit, right? Because
Right.
it's like, not helpful. And so a lot of times, like one of the things that I've done when I'm around people who I know are going through something hard that they've said thank you for later is asking them what it feels like or how they are or what can I say? I don't or just saying, I don't know what to say to you.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. Dude, I this reminds me, in 5th grade,
Are you
this
calling
girl
am I
yeah,
dude here?
yeah,
I'm
all
just
of
trying
y'all are
to okay,
dude.
I was just
Uh, I had this experience, and this is just occurring to me. When I was in 5th grade, a girl
Yeah.
named Jennifer in my class, her father died on Christmas. He was a fisherman
Yikes.
and died in his car.
Oh.
And when I went back to school, my grandmother had died earlier that year. I said to her, "I'm really sorry, I know how you feel." And she looked at me and she said, "You have no fucking idea how I feel."
Oh,
And
wow.
And it was the wrong thing to say because I didn't know how she felt. I was
Mhm.
equating the same thing, but I hadn't lost my dad. I didn't know how she
Yeah,
felt.
right.
So it's moments like that too that probably
Well, because you don't
cause
wanna
me
say
not
the
to know
wrong
what to say. I don't
of
want to say the
course.
wrong thing,
Of
you know? And it's
course.
and then that is something that like is ingrained in me. But the older I've gotten, the more like I've you have to become comfortable with the idea of death because it's going to happen to all of us. I lost a friend a couple years ago to breast cancer, and I was sitting at dinner with some friends when I got the text that she had passed.
I was one of those friends.
She was one of
I
them, and I was like,
cannot
"Oh my
even
god, my friend Tara just passed away, blah, blah," and it was like it was time, you know, like, she had been fighting it, and she was really sick, and so there was some relief in it, and then, like, 20 minutes later, I get a text that was like, JK, got the wrong information, she's not dead. And I had already texted a bunch of friends to, like, pass information
You
on.
were
I was like,
also,
"What do
like,
I"
at the table basically crying with you.
crying.
It was
And then I was
devastating.
laughing, because when we got together for her funeral with friends, we all laughed about it because it's like, that was the most Tara thing ever that word got out that she was dead, but
It
wasn't.
wasn't.
She
She
would have
did
gotten
pass
such a
on a
good
couple
laugh out of
things.
it. And to be able to, like, in our grief, find the humor, the humanity of the person that we'd lost, I think was really helpful. That does not mean that there weren't dark moments.
Of course.
But, I think grieving it is. It's like what he said, it ebbs and flows. So sometimes I am laughing about it, but then sometimes I'm like, I really wish that she was here to experience this moment
Yeah, of
because
course.
this would be so Tara or whatever. So,
Well, I think though there's 2 things you've said that I really wanna point out about the grief process that I think are really important, and one is community, right? Like,
mhm.
that was something that we talked about on the podcast Wednesday was he mentioned 12-step, and I've had this experience as well where it's like, when you go to a place of people who have walked through similar stories, it does help with the pain of what you're feeling because grief can feel so isolating, and
Yeah.
we keep mentioning death, but there's so many different things that can happen to put someone into a grieving place, and I think that that's also important to say because it's like, I think when we don't equate it to something big enough, there's often a lot of shame in that part of it the journey too, and so you're like, "Oh, but it's no big deal. You went through something worse." Like, I think that that's a common thing that people say is, "Well, I don't really wanna make this a big thing because, like, they went through X, Y, and Z," and, like, we cannot compare ourselves to others because everyone's journey is completely different and what you experienced in your story it could be as big as in their story for them. Like we don't really know, but finding the people who can hear you out, who can feel like safe people to talk to, that will continue on the path with you, like not it doesn't have to be every day, but like just so you don't feel like you're walking alone. Like I find that to be a very important part of the process of grief, like the people who can respect the journey and the process
Mhm.
of it. And then also just like really being honest with each other, like what we were saying, like I said to our friend who lost his mom, like, I don't know what to say, but I'm happy to sit with you in any of this because I'm very comfortable there. And like, tell me what you want to say. And like, I still often talk to him about his mom. And he's told me that was the most helpful thing because so many people just want that part of his story to be over, or they think that the conversation about her is over because she hasn't been here now for maybe like 3 years, I think. And for him, it's an everyday thing,
Right.
just like you're saying. And so I think being acknowledged in that and witnessed in that is healing for us as
Yeah.
people and humans. So that's just really important too.
I wonder if it's just, you know, us again not knowing what to say. So if you do say something and then it brings up tears and then then you're in this like uncomfortable position. But I think in those moments, like you have to take yourself out of the equation a little bit
Of
and think about
course.
the person that is grieving and give them what you think they might need.
Or just
Um,
ask them. Like, I just really don't know that we know.
right,
Like,
right.
I think, like you said at the beginning of this podcast, everyone grieves in different ways and everyone's needs are so different in those moments. And so, like, how could you predict it? But I think what you're trying to say too is the part about like maybe not taking it personal if you don't get it exactly right and you upset them. Like, there's all these layers to what they're feeling. Some of it could just be projection as well. And hopefully you can say at some point, like, my heart's in the right place. I don't know what to say to you, and so I'm
Right.
struggling. Like, just be on I just think being honest never really goes wrong in
Yeah,
those.
or offering saying like, "Hey, I have no idea what you're going through right now, but I am here no matter what. Like,
Yes,
call me in the
totally.
middle of the night if you need me. Tell me what
Yeah,
you need, I'll do it."
I think that goes a long way too.
Yeah, it really does.
Well, I was reading about a bunch of other cultures, and John kinda mentioned this on the podcast Wednesday, but, like, there's certain cultures that really honor grief in the way that, like, if someone's spouse dies, I think it was a 12-month ritual that this person does or whatever, and it's honored by the whole culture. I'm not doing it very much justice right now because I don't remember the specifics, but it's like because of that happening, like if you become a widower, people know what that process would be and it's very respected. And
Yeah.
that's all I really want. I don't think that that's realistic in our culture to be like, "Okay, well, see you in 12 months, get back to us," or whatever. But I do think there's something really beautiful about honoring the process of it and respecting where people are and knowing it's gonna be day to day for a long time. Like, they're not gonna even know what each day is gonna bring. And like Robin Williams' son says, it just shows its face usually out of the blue. It's
Yeah.
totally unpredictable. You could be driving down the street and see something or hear a song or whatever, and that's the thing that sends you into a bad place that day. So just knowing that, like, you're not just gonna, like, snap your fingers and get over something and then be done forever. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it reminds me too of, the Steven Wilson Jr., who I'm, like, a super fan of. He has a song called "Grief Is Only Love," and
Yeah.
the lyric is "Grief is only love with nowhere else to go." And I
Mm,
think if you can hold on to that concept, and by the way, if anybody is grieving and needs a great record to, like, feel not alone and to cry and listen to the Son of Dad by Steven Wilson Jr. It's so
so
good, and
good.
it's a his father was his best friend, and he was a single dad that raised him, and he lost his dad. And this record was, how he dealt with that
Mhm.
grief, which, I think in some ways he says it's a little unhealthy because now I have to go on stage and
And
like
sing it
grieve
over
publicly
and
every night.
over. Yeah.
But I think that's his process. Grief is only love with nowhere else to go is such an amazing idea so that when you do get sad, it's just a reminder like that this person or this thing that you loved so much isn't in your life anymore.
Yeah, you wouldn't
And
feel the sadness if you didn't feel all that love.
right.
Yeah.
So it's a really beautiful thing. I also wanted to bring up for my Jewish friends who sit Shiva.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that is a cultural thing that I've never really understood like exactly what it is. I've heard it mentioned a lot, especially when I lived in Los Angeles. I had lots of friends that would sit Shiva, and it's such an interesting. I read up about it a little today, and it's a week long mourning process. And one of the things that I thought that was most interesting about it is like they use the time to discuss the loss and to accept the comfort from others. And I think that's
Mm.
really
Accept
important.
the comfort from
Yes,
others.
because
Wow.
basically you're sitting for 7 days and guests are coming in to mourn with you and to grieve with you, and this all happens post-funeral. So
Okay.
you can't sit Shiva until, like, the grave is completely covered by soil, and then you sit for 7 days, and when you end Shiva, you get up and you walk around the block to signify, like, you're going back into the world.
Wow.
But I think the really important thing that jumped out to me was that it lets you accept the comfort of others, which it sounds really beautiful to me, and I
And
love that
exhausting in
culture.
a lot of ways.
Yeah, of course
Really
it's
respect it.
yeah, and I'm sure, there are some people that, like, take it I mean, that's the wrong term, but, like, the people that are, like, they want the attention of giving you their acceptance or giving you
Mhm.
their comfort. People do it for the wrong reason or because
Yeah.
they feel like they have to or whatever, but I just love culturally that that exists,
Yeah, I'm agree with
That's
you.
I didn't have that in the church that I grew up in. Like, you would have a funeral, and then there was, like, the party, whatever it is. You would have the viewing, the funeral, and then there's the party afterwards where everyone brings a dish, and then everyone leaves, and you're stuck there with a bunch of leftovers and dishes that you have to return.
It's not to be Debbie Downer, but
Yeah, so
yeah, I do agree. I think it's a beautiful thing that people honor it in that way, and although that process sounds very tiring to me emotionally, I can see where it would be very cathartic as well. And then you would maybe be ready to go back out into the world in a different kind of way because you've spent 7 straight days going through that process. So, I
yeah,
don't know. I think it's just an interesting conversation like we said, and I do really respect this book, The Magic and the Tragic, because reframing that conversation to even speak about grief in this way, to go try to find the beauty in it and to find whatever your process was. Like, he talked a lot about his grieving process involved really getting into music, and there was some creativity that he found during one of his deepest grieving processes, and, like, really leaning on the arts in certain ways, like you were just mentioning Steven Wilson Jr.'s album. I mean, that's what he did too. That's how he got it out. I'm not a songwriter, so I don't have that luxury, but, like,
right,
it could be anything. It could what I described as sitting outside and noticing nature. That's a beautiful creative process in a lot of ways too, and a connecting process. So,
yeah,
I think it's different for everyone. if you are in a stage of loss or grief, go check out this book. And also, like what Robin Williams' son said, I love giving back, doing service. Like, that's a beautiful way to kind of
Mhm.
get out of your own self and remember what we're all here for,
Yeah.
at the end of the day. So, anyway, the book's called Magic in the Tragic. I'll put it in the description of this podcast. If you guys want to talk to us about this conversation at all, you can always email us at theedge@velvetsedge.com. You can hit me up on Instagram. I'm at Velvet's Edge. Chip.
I'm at Chip Dorsch. It's ChipDorsch.
We also are starting our own Velvet's Edge podcast Instagram at Velvet's Edge Podcast. So go follow that. We're going to be posting really soon. So go check that out. And as you guys go into the weekend and you're living on the edge, I hope you always remember to.
Act
I'm
casual.
going to go nurse this red face.
Bye.
Bye.